Perfect. Awesome. All right. We're recording. I'm going to share my screen. We'll get going. Let's build with CMS with V.one. Sharing the screen. Should be coming through. Can you see my screen? Does it come through?
Yep, everything's good.
Beautiful. Thanks for the thumbs up, man.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So today we're going to cover the CMS with V.one. If you haven't already checked out my two previous live streams, I covered the builder, which is what you're looking at here. This is basically like the front end, what you want the user experience to look like. The second live stream I did was automations. This was a killer one because this is really what separates V.one apart from all the others, is being able to connect to other APIs and bring in information and data. So then it's stored in your V.one CMS. So that's really, I think, the best way to explain, hey, what's the advantage of building with V.one? It has all three of the things you need to build an app within its own application, and it's leveraged towards building your V.one. That's why it's called V.one, which is, this is something that you could build within a matter of days and get it going. So with any V.one, it's not going to be something that is, you're looking to try to potentially build something that's going to have millions of users on it. Although that'd be a nice problem to have. This is the purpose, is to get something launched quickly and be able to provide add some dynamic data and information. Is really what separates it apart. And the time to learn these three things is very low, and it's one of the lowest that I've seen out of any no-code builder, and it's a massive advantage. So hope that kind of gives like a overview and perspective of V.one. What I've been doing, what I'm going to be launching, probably not this week but next week, is I'm creating a Gumroad clone. So I don't know if you heard of Gumroad, but basically Gumroad is a service that you can use to basically easily launch and receive payment for any of your digital info products. Well, what it doesn't do that I'd like it to be able to do is have like a customized website. Gumroad comes out of the box with just their own template. It actually looks like this. I designed it like that on purpose. And then what happens is a lot of builders, they'll build their own website, right? Well, that takes time and energy to basically kind of maintain two different, builders and experiences. And so what I'm trying to do, what I thought would be cool, is why don't we combine it? Like, wouldn't it be neat if you could just build a custom landing page, but then also build in some of the things that come in Gumroad and have that flow directly into this website. So what I mean by that is like things like the price, things like the number of sales, things like, and what we're going to cover today is, showing some social proof of who actually have bought your product. These are all going to dynamically flow so that when people buy things in Gumroad, it's going to dynamically flow in here to your front page, your custom landing page. So you're really kind of combining both of those things into one, which is pretty neat, because now you have an advantage when you're selling in Gumroad. You could create a custom experience, but you can also get this dynamic data to show up, which helps with social proof, right? It helps convince people to know other people are buying it. It helps people to know how many sales have been bought with it. And so those are the things that are important. If you're trying to sell something, those are absolute key principles that you want to show, but you can't do that today easily, because you have two separate experiences. You can't bake that into your website, but now you can with V.one, which is super cool. So in the previous live streams, what I did, just to give some backstory, is I won't click into it right now, but we created an automation where we connected to Gumroad's API, so that every single time somebody purchases a Gumroad product, it then syncs into my CMS. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And so what that looks like is, when you click on the CMS, you can add a new collection by clicking this button here. And when you add that new collection, you basically just have what kind of looks like a spreadsheet, right? And you can decide what are the different columns you want, or different fields you want in that sheet. And then you're basically building your own database that looks like a spreadsheet. And so I labeled them sales, revenue, and the name of the customer that purchased it, as well as the country, and then the price of the product that they bought. And so then what happens is, if I go back to my CMS, and this is a bunch of my test data, is when somebody purchases it and a sale is made, then that information comes from Gumroad's API, and then it inserts it into this collection. This collection then is basically just a bunch of information about, one thing. And so that one thing is sales. And so it shows there's a sale, so it shows who purchased it, where they purchased it from, and then the time and date. And so to do this, if I were to recreate this, you just add a new collection, and when you add a new collection, you'll then edit it and add in these rows, and then with the live stream that we did before, you can then very easily just say, this piece of information, I want it to go in this column. And so then when that information happens, V.one's going to take care of all that for you. So now that you basically have your information stored in your CMS, you need a way for this to display on the front end. And so that's what I wanted to cover today, is to show like what that looks like. So, oops, I'm just going to scroll down here to this area here. And so say, for example, I want to, what I've kind of teed up for us is I want to show some social proof. I want to show the name, just the first name of the person, as well as where they're from, to say, hey, this person just bought it. So if you can imagine, when you're selling this product, somebody comes to your sales page and they see somebody just bought it, and I could also put the date too if I want to, then they can know, oh wow, like somebody just bought this. That creates kind of like some FOMO and some intrigue, and like, this is a product that I want. And so in order to display that, we're going to click on collections. And so what's going to happen then is this box will display. And then if you just hover over it, you'll see this box right above it allows you to then select one of those collections. Right. And so one of those collections that we're going to use is basically the Gumroad sales. We could also do purchaser name and country. But we could try Gumroad sales, because I'm going to actually do something on the fly here. And I'm going to bring in the date, because I think that would be cool to show. All right, so then once we have the sales selected, actually, you know what? I'm going to do the different collection. I'm going to do the purchaser name and country. So I created a separate collection that's storing this information, and it's going to be showing what is the purchaser name and country. So if I do that here, and then the way I want this to display is vertical. So you get 4 options to display your information. You can do horizontal, which means if I were to, let me move this so it's a little bit easier to see. Bring this down into the space, because that's what I want to display. So if I select horizontal, basically what's happening is if I have multiple items within my collection, you can see it. Sorry, it's a little bit delayed. There it is. My Zoom is slowing everything down. So what I have here is the name as well as the country of the person that's purchased. And then here's the second record: name, the second person is Michael, and the country they purchased, right? So if I want something horizontally scrolled, then I would select horizontal. If I want a vertical, we do vertical, which is what we're going to use for this. And so now you can see how it's stacked nicely there. Say, for example, you just want to show one piece of data within that row, you can select single item. And so then that way you can then just, and then select the single item, which is, well, this collection that I have here really isn't set up for that, for just a single item, but you could maybe you just want to put the most recent person that's purchased. And so what will happen is if you just select that single item, then it will just display the next record to show who just purchased it. And so before I get into setting this up a little bit more, what I'd want to show is, like, how do you control how it appears within this box? And so that's where you click this design component. And so within this design component, you have basically these fields. And those fields are going to appear over here on the left-hand side. You just drag and drop them onto your canvas here. And so when you select this button for that field, you can change basic stuff like background color, border color, rounding the image, and you can even like add a button like that if you want. Maybe you want to put a button here just underneath it for whatever reason, and then you can resize it like this. And then let's say I want to change the font of this button. I can then go in here and change it to black. Oops, there we go. And then you can upload a custom font if you want. Let's say I don't want a border. And I click that button there to then take off the border of the button. Now I'll go back to the builder. It's a little slow because my memory on my computer and the Zoom are fighting hard for displaying this and working smoothly, but it's come along. Appreciate your patience. So then what you can see here is now I have, or scroll down here, you can see how it's what's called a repeating group, right? So each row or record that I have in my CMS collection is going to display here. So I only have 2 rows. So that's 2 records. That's why you only see, 2 rows of information. And so what's really nice too about this, to prevent a lot of like going back and forth, is you can just move around these different components within this CMS builder, so you don't have to go back to the design component. So that way you can kind of shape it, move it so that it moves, or you can kind of figure out like, how exactly do I need to position this so that it's displays the way that you want. So if I were to then just move this over a little bit more. Keep on going. There we go. And then say I want to make this space a little bit larger, then I just grab the edges here. It's just going painfully slow because we're on the Zoom call. But when you're building with the builder in real time, it's definitely not this slow. But essentially, if I wanted to create more space here, because you see it's being cut off, what would happen is then there would be a little arrow key that I can then select it and drag and move it to the right. So then I can then make sure it's displayed, fully within, this frame of the collection. So it looks like my computer's just slowed down a little bit here, crashing with Zoom. But essentially, what I wanted to highlight there was just using that builder in this CMS and combining it. So if I go back to register name, here it is here. This is basically what we're displaying here, right? So here's the item ID, here's the first name and the country and that information, and then I'm just pulling that in from the CMS collection on the front end there. So I'm sorry, my Zoom is making everything move so slowly. That was the main goal I wanted to do, is cover like the CMS builder. I didn't want to go quite into the product, the idea that you had shared with me that you're building, because but what I do believe, based off of the concept that you have there, you will be using this because you'll want to show, like, and it's a very common concept, right, within building anything, is like you have a bunch of data and you want to be able to display that dynamically. Yeah. So is there anything like building this that you just saw that I could answer for you, or go through a little bit more questions you had with what we're building there?
To be honest, like not too much. One thing you did mention before is that there's like the Gumroad sales, and I believe like the name and country.
Yeah.
Did you go through both of those, or I think you only went through one? I'm not exactly sure.
Oh yeah, I didn't show the sales. I can show you the sales if you'd like. But
yeah,
yeah, definitely. So and I can do a little bit of automations here and expand it just a little bit if that's helpful. So what I have here is the sales. And so if I click on this, I'm using a collection, just like we used the one down below, but I'm using this one a little bit different. So this is the collection that I'm using, right? That is basically where am I getting that data from? And then I'm selecting dashboard instead of vertical. And the reason why I'm selecting dashboard is I just want to show one item within that collection, right? So I have a bunch of information in there and I want to count it. So what I'm doing is I'm counting how much of Gumroad sales there are, like total sales. And so what that looks like is if I go here to Gumroad sales, is this just giving me a total count of all these items within the collection. So it's been 42 quote unquote sales. So that's how I'm using and displaying that information a little bit differently. I'll give you, since you missed the live stream for automations, let me pull this up real quick and I'll show you like, what does it look like to connect to other APIs and just how easy that is with Gumroad. And not Gumroad, but yeah, with V.one. Cool.
Mm.
Sorry, just trying to get logged in.
No problem.
Sometimes it gets stuck right there. That's a bug that we're working on, but you just have to click it one more time. Try not to rage click it, let it load.
Yeah.
But so working with Gumroad's API, and I tweeted this out yesterday. I said I was actually struggling with it because Gumroad doesn't always provide information when we ask it to. And so I was like, is this just me or there are other people have issues with it? And every single person that responded, I had like 10 responses. They all said Gumroad's API is not easy to work with. And it's so sometimes that's something that you'll encounter when you're working with APIs is you don't know the quality of them. And that could be really frustrating because you might not know, like, am I doing something wrong? Or is it, actually the technology that I'm using is just not flowing, every time. And so like one of those examples is like, I wanted to put in the star rating from the reviews and display that dynamically on the front, because that's another way to show like social proof and for people to like say, okay, this is a product I want to buy. But for whatever reason, Gumroad is not sending that information over. And so what that actually looks like is I've connected to have a Gumroad account, and you basically connect to that Gumroad account by adding your API key. So I won't show that because I'll expose my API key here. But what happens is once you kind of basically just create an integration between the two accounts, you can basically decide what is the type of information that you want. You can have a sale, a refund, dispute one, cancellation. These might be good for other use cases, but I don't really care about them. All I care about is the sale, because what I'm trying to do is show that information dynamically on the front end. And so then once you want to connect to, or you basically have to decide, okay, my next step in this process is I want to then send that information from Gumroad somewhere. And so the beautiful thing and the huge value add of V.one is be able to then house that information within your CMS, your collection, the collection that I already built. So you're going to want to build your collection first, then set up the automation. And so since I've already built the collection, I'm now setting up that automation. You're going to drop in your app ID, which is located right here. So you just literally copy and paste that. Yep. Drop that right there. And then the collection name, that's the collection, the CMS that I already showed you. When you select this drop down, it'll have a bunch of options. And then you want to have an action event. Do you want to update or do you want to create a new one? And so for mine, it's a pretty simple use case. I'm just creating every time a sale is made, I want to create a new record, a new row within this collection so that I can then use that data for something. And so then you have to say, okay, this is what you wanted. This is the action you want to do when Gumroad is triggered. Now, what information do you want to put where? And so I select the sales. I want to take sales, the column that I created, right? So if you think back to, why don't I show this? This might be helpful, and show the actual collection. So in my collection, I created a column for sales, right? So I'm just selecting, hey, for this column, I want this piece of data to go into it. And that data is basically this right here, which is the sale, right? And so then I select that. And so that every time a sale is made, what's going to happen is V1 is then going to take that information from Gumroad. It's going to say, okay, that sale record, we want to put it in this column within the collection that we created. And so this is loading right here. I'll show that once it
So
loads.
it's kind of just like setting where to like attribute like the data or the transaction, whatever's happening. All right.
Exactly. And you're just telling it where to go and where to start, where to store it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you can see I've done that same process for the name of the who purchased as well as the country who purchased it from. Now, there is one thing that I would recommend that we're working on to improve, making it even easier to set this up. So you can see this column for sales and then name and country. So I just added name and country here. That was something I did just a couple days ago. So you can see that's here.
Yep.
So when you're testing this out, what'll happen sometimes is if I select this drop down, you can see how I only have like one piece of Gumroad information, right?
Mhm.
And so what's happening is that you have to time when you're testing and pulling in that data information, right? So what I'd recommend is when you set up your trigger, you're going to hit your play button, and what that's going to do is you're basically setting up the test. And so why don't we just do a live test real quick, just so you can see this. And so let's see here. Here's my product that I set up in Gumroad right here. So this is a template. And then I'm just going to put this right here, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to trigger this. So that's telling V1, hey, we want to set up a test to pull in that information. And then I go to my product that I've already set up in Gumroad, and I'm going to, your info is complete. That's weird. It's not asking me what my name is. Before, Gumroad was asking me what my first name is. Now it's not. So we'll see what happens.
You need the first name for the name and country thing, like so it knows like who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd have to have something. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was weird is just yesterday when I was using this, and so this is just technology, is you see how it's just asking for my email address? Well, before it was asking me for name and email address. So why that field is gone, I have no idea. That's on Gumroad. So what's happening is I just got a notification that the purchase was successfully made.
Was the notification on like an app or something? I'm curious where like you got the notification like on.
Yeah, so that notification was just to my email, and that was from Gumroad. So that's experiences happening outside of what we're doing here with V.one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Cool.
Yeah. And so then now when I pull in this information, now when I scroll down, you see how we have so many more elements here. So these are all the elements available, the pieces of data that I could use from that transaction. And you can see there's country right there, right? And then you can see I could pull in product name if I wanted, quantity, which is helpful, resource name, sale, right? Timestamp. So that timestamp is good. That's
more than one. Can you select like more than one and have that show up, or do you have to create like a whole new like, I don't know, like call like
collection?
Do you have to create like yeah? Can you like have more than one display pretty much?
Yeah, you can definitely. Yeah, you can definitely have more than one display. Like and so what you need to do is add. Now, when you say more than one display, like could I select all these fields? Could I select like as many as I wanted? Is that
You
what
probably have to do them like separately, right? Like create like separate like columns and stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. So it's got to be 1-to-1, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So it knows, yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't know, right? What's yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
or what'll happen is it'll concatenate where it'll put it all in one row, and then you're not going to be able to read it, and you won't be able to like then select the different rows for what you want. And so that's what this process is here is every time you add a new collection field, you then say, what I'd like to set up is basically, say I want to do, well, this is creating the time, but let's say that I wanted to pull in the purchase time or purchase date. So I just created a new collection field there. Got to save it. And then it might not pull it in because I just created it. But basically, yeah, I'm gonna have to hold on and see. I'm gonna play this really quick. And what I'm doing is I'm waiting for this. I'm telling this to go pull that new column that I created, to pull that into the drop down so that I can select it. And so when I do that here, there it is, purchase date.
Okay.
Yep. And so then I can then go down here to sale time stamp right there, right? So now I've got that 1-to-1. I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go back to my, let's see if it works. I'm going to go purchase it again. Okay. And so then what we should, I haven't, so Gumroad hasn't told me that it's, so basically right now Gumroad is processing it. I just got a notification from my email that Gumroad has received it. And then what will happen is we should then see this work and then display in my CMS. So if I go back, come on, you can do it. Okay, oh, so I was in my CMS. I need to go back. So this is my purchase date column, right? Right here, this is a new column I just created.
Mm.
And then where is my purchase time? So I don't think it's activated yet. So 5556. Okay, there. No, that's not the notification. So 11:32. So I did that just a couple minutes ago. Let me refresh the data. So maybe sometimes you have to refresh it just to reflect the new information. And let's see if it's there because it should show it.
Random question, like this is more specific to my case, I guess, but like are you familiar with like how V.one like works with like Instagram APIs and like different like social media APIs? Because that's I'm gonna be looking into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably soon.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, I love that. I love that use case. I think that sounds amazing. I haven't used it, Instagram or Facebook's API with V.one, but that's something I could definitely help explore and look into. If you could give me like, we can connect offline and just share like, hey, what is the information or what you're trying to do? I can do some research and help you to see like, hey, this is how you'd set that up. So you can see here that data is now showing. See the purchase time.
Cool.
And so now it's displaying there. And so what I would do is like, let's say you're, let's create a new workflow here. I don't know if we have Instagram or API or Facebook hooked up yet, but what I would do is just create a new workflow and then, oh, we do have Facebook. Look at that.
Can you input like your own custom like APIs, or does it have to be one that V.one already has set up?
Yep, you can via webhooks. Okay. So let's say that API would obviously need to have a webhook, right? Yep. So if you set that webhook up, then you can get that information and do all the basic CRUD stuff that you need to basically pull that information in. It's obviously just a little bit, it's not as like easy as having the integration already here, but you can use the webhook to be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah. If it's still like, I guess at first it doesn't have to be as easy to use. It has to be like, as long as it's right. Like,
yeah, that's cool. Well, I just meant like easy as in setting up, but yeah, I mean, V.one is already incredibly easy. And also too, like the bigger problem isn't so much that you can build it. It's that it's really just getting it out there as quickly as possible to get the iteration feedback loop going. Right. So people can say like, do they care about it or they do not care? The worst thing is to build something nobody wants. And so if you can just have that mindset, you'll increase your odds of success of maybe your first thing that you're building isn't what helps people, but then that leads you to what does, and then that's what you monetize as you turn into a product. So,
Cool.
but yeah, man, was that helpful?
No, definitely. Like, yeah, I definitely learned a lot. I like information sessions like this, or like
Yeah.
tutorials almost, and then like going and trying it myself. So
Yeah.
probably later today when I have time, I'll go into V.one and do some stuff.
Yeah, man, just give me a chat, through the support through Circle. I'd be happy to help you. If you get stuck, I want to help you, get something out there. I'm excited about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Great. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. Dude, I appreciate it. Let me know any questions you got.
Yep. Have a great day.
All
See
right.
ya.
Thanks. See you. Bye.
Bye.